My name is Andres Perez. I'm a professor and director of the Center for Animal Health and Food Safety at the College of Veterinary Medicine, University of Minnesota. The objective of this presentation is to provide an update of a field visit that took place in early September, mid-September, to update on the situation on African swine fever in the Dominican Republic and review knowns and unknowns and challenges that would be associated with the contention and activities to control the epidemic in the island. This visit was performed as following an invitation from the OIRSA, and thanks to Dr. Abelardo de Gracia for that, and the Universidad Autónoma de Santo Domingo, with the objective of assessing the situation and providing advice and suggestions on the activities related or intended to control the epidemic. Through the visit, I had the opportunity to interview and discuss the situation with a number of practitioners and laboratories, the Dominican Republic government and its Department of Animal Health, number of swine producers, and also with the USDA, APHIS, and FAS team there. The structure of this presentation includes 5 main areas related with an overview of the epidemiological situation of African swine fever in the Dominican Republic, a description of the clinical manifestation of the disease, a description of the organization of the swine sector in the country, an overview of some differences in biosecurity and risk observed, and then a summary of challenging risks and recommendations moving forward. The slide here shows the distribution of the flow of information and reporting in the Dominican Republic. Collection of information starts by field veterinarians and producers that share their suspects with regional epidemiologists. They will share the information with the Division of Epidemiological Surveillance of the Ministry of Agriculture, and they will compile and organize summaries like the one that is shown here on the left. They compile that information and share it with the Direction of Animal Health, which is responsible of sharing the results, providing updates to the OIE. And then the structure depends on the Department of Animal Health, the Direction of Livestock, and the Ministry of Agriculture of the Dominican Republic. The slide here shows summary of the situation between July 28th and September 10th. The first notification to the OIE took place on July 28th, and at the time when I visited the island, the number of outbreaks reported to the OIE was 45, with 42 of those already resolved. However, the information available at the Department of Animal Health, of course, was a little bit better because of the delay between the collection of information and then reported to the OIE. That's normal in these kind of situations, a little bit of delay in the collection and then reporting. At the time when I visited the Department of Animal Health, there were 214 suspects recorded, of which 169 have been inspected by official veterinarians, and 165 of those have already been confirmed by the official laboratory, and 60 of those outbreaks were already resolved. As you can see on the distribution, the spatial distribution of the outbreaks, they are widespread in the island with, of course, a higher frequency in those regions with a higher density of swine farms. The outbreak investigation process, all pigs in the affected farm are euthanized using electrocution and buried on site. Data are collected using an outbreak investigation form that when I visited the country was done on paper, but the projection, the expectation was that they would be moving into collection through e-forms soon. And there is a central database that collection of e-forms would be done using tablets that I understand are already available. And then there is a central database at the Department of Animal Health where the information is compiled and collected for analysis. This is a practice that takes place called foreclosure that is consists of a subsidy that is provided by the government to support sacrifice of exposed animals, not animals in the outbreak, but exposed animals on one specific processing plant. Regarding the origin of the epidemic, the first confirmed case has been traced back to April 10th by a joint technical mission conducted by the OIE, the FAO, OIRSA, and ICA. However, there have been, I had a chance to collect rumors regarding unusually high mortalities observed in the country since February. And then number of samples have been sequenced, 8 samples have been sequenced by the USDA laboratory in Plum Island, and the result of the analysis lead to identification of a genotype 2 ASF virus classified as a Georgia 2007 strain. This identification may suggest, of course difficult to know for sure, but may suggest that the origin may be associated with an interaction from Russian or Eastern Europe country, in opposition to Asia or China, as this particular strain doesn't seem to have the changes that were accumulated and found in strains that are coming from Asia. So one may believe that that's the origin of the epidemic. In terms of the hypothesis, there were 3 hypotheses on potential routes of introduction that were recorded by that mission. One was related with an interaction from Haiti, and that was supported by the geographical proximity with the country and the extended borders with relatively low control. There were some rumors I collected in my visit that suggested that there were high mortalities of pigs in Haiti in early 2021, late 2020. Of course, difficult to confirm, but the rumors were there. And then since ASF has also been confirmed in Haiti recently, that seems to support this hypothesis, although it's really difficult to know. It will be impossible to know possibly if Haiti was infected before Dominican Republic or the other way around. The other 2 hypotheses that were considered at the time included the potential for improperly treated sheep garbage, or the illegal introduction of swine products either through tourists or through the importation of illegal swine products, as observed on a mission that OIRSA conducted as part of a risk analysis report time ago. However, given the genetic characterization of the virus, and that Haiti has now reported the disease, the first hypothesis seems to be the most likely, although it's probably going to be impossible to demonstrate which of these 3 hypotheses is the right one. Regarding the clinical presentation of the disease, I collected a report from 2 farms. This one is the largest farm affected so far, with about 1,300 sows. This report wasn't coming from the owner of that farm, but from other farmers that talked with him about the emergency. What they indicated was that the event started with repetitions in day 1, followed by episodes of abortions 2 weeks after the beginning. 2 weeks after that, signs of anorexia and death of about between 5 and 7 sows per day. And then 45 after the event started, suddenly about 150 sows died. 15 days after that, 1,200 sows died. So an early start and specific that then is followed by low progression that ends up with all of a sudden death of most of the sows in the farm, but with a really long progression time. Now another example, second farm with less than 500 sows. This was reported by 2 veterinarians, so I have more clarity in terms of what they have observed and how they reported compared to a previous case. In this case, what they report is that the episode started with a fever in the gestation unit on day 1, followed by one sow dying the second day with signs of cyanosis. Following day, abortion of between 2-3 sows, and then 1 day after, approximately 20 sows with signs of fever and severe dehydration that died. Now, surprisingly, when they performed necropsy and medication with antibiotics, antipyretics, The following day, day 5, there were no signs of fever, and they get back to almost normal production, which was quite surprising. A few days after that, ASF is confirmed in the samples that they collected at the necropsy, so that ends up, of course, with the population of the farm. But it was surprising that the animals seem to, the farm seems to have gotten back to normal production. So initially there were reports about high mortalities, but this different progression, what it shows or suggests, is that there is an acute form of the disease, but with a really long progression that probably is confounded by the presence of other organisms, pathogens in the farm, pairs PD, that may result in more or less aggressive presentation of the disease, with some mild forms in those farms in which other agents are not present, compared to other situations in which the disease may be a little bit more aggressive. In terms of the lesions, as you can see, there skin presentation that normally one would consider associated with diseases like erysipedia or the PDNS, the skin presentation of circovirus. Quite specific. Then when one opens the animal for the necropsy, there are signs of hemorrhagic fever that are observed, and then there are typical lesions in organs that are impacted by the disease, like petechial hemorrhagia in the kidney, as you can see here. And there are signs of hemorrhagic fever in lungs and liver. So the lesions are there. They are quite characteristic of the disease in general, of an hemorrhagic fever, and they were observed well by the veterinarians. In terms of the organization of the swine sector in the Dominican Republic, there are 31 provinces. About half of the production in the island, maybe even more than that, is concentrated in commercial farms, in 334 farms. Less than half of the production comes from backyard and small farms, small holders, for a total of about between 1 and 2 million pigs in the country. Most of the farms are concentrated in this region of the country. There are 3, not 4, that's a mistake there. There are 3 genetic nuclei and multipliers, and then 22 farms between 500 and 2,000 sows. Then 308 approximately farms with less than 500 sows, and about 78% of the industry is clustered in the region marked there in the map. Now, putting together both ideas, the distribution of the farms and the epidemiological situation of the disease, we can see that there are 4 different strata that may be considered. On top, there are 3 genetic nuclei and multipliers with high biosecurity standards, have been in business for about 10 years. Are PIRS negative, PD negative, CSF negative. They don't vaccinate against CSF, and they have not had any outbreak of ASF so far. There is a perceived risk of the disease, of course, because of the epidemiological situation in the country, and the situation is, of course, of high concern, but their standards of biosecurity are higher than the rest. Then we have a second strata with including those farms between approximately 500 and 2,000 sows. That group receives veterinary assistance. There is a variable biosecurity and proximity to the backyard. There was 1 outbreak that was recorded in this group, and the perceived risk is higher because of those factors that we mentioned. And these 2 groups of 25 farms are assisted by less than 10 veterinarians that provide support to them. Then there is a third group of farms with less than 500 sows, approximately 300 farms in that category, with low biosecurity and high proximity to backyard and between farms. Approximately 9,000 sows in 5 square kilometers, and really highly concentrated, and approximately 60% of them being PIRS positive and or PED positive. 2 outbreaks were recorded in this group, and of course the perception of risk is much higher here. And then finally, there are thousands of backyard smallholders with practices that are compatible with disease transmission, and approximately 162 so far. Most of the outbreaks by far have been recorded and reported in this category. To illustrate those differences, this figure shows the distribution of one of the multipliers, high standards of biosecurity, multi-site, separation of more than 3 kilometers between the entrance and the first site, and making use of the landscape to support the separation between sites, high biosecurity standards by the Chester. Huge difference compared to those farms, those locations, that production sector where the disease has been reported so far. In terms of challenging risks and recommendations moving forward, there were some organizational challenges that have been already reported by the OIE through the PBS evaluation back in 2010. Some of those challenges seem to be still there. There is a need to improve a few things, like following up with farms that have been depopulated to make sure that there is no immediate repopulation of those farms. Combination of insufficient disinfection and immediate repopulation may result in perpetuating the circulation of the virus in that sector. There is a need to make sure that they follow up unconfirmed cases of disease, unconfirmed suspects, to verify if the absence of confirmation was associated with a false negative result, or if there may be other issues that may be considered going on, like, for example, potentially cases of classical swine fever. There is a need to enhance training for the response teams and try to decrease the speed of the response. And of course, there is a need to update legislation to provide framework for regulations. The legislation is a little bit out to date. There are no permits required for maintaining the farms, and thus the location of farms is unregulated, which results in high density and low biosecurity farms concentrated in small areas. The risk for this combination is that in the absence of any regulation, if given the epidemiological situation globally, there is a risk for perpetuating the situation and having new incursions. Now, differences compared to the outbreaks in '78 in the Dominican Republic. There is now, as we said, the global situation of the disease is different, with large areas of the world already infected, which imposes a continuous risk for new incursions into the island. The commercial sector is much more organized now in the Dominican Republic compared to what it was in 1978, and with most of the swine production actually coming from organized farms. There is a need to establish a separation from Haiti and improve regulations at the borders, along with improving security both for ships and tourists. And there is a need to review options for multi-site commercial farms, not only in the Dominican Republic, but also in the US and other places. As we saw, there is clearly differences in biosecurity for multi-site commercial farms that still would be considered one single epidemiological unit, compared to, regardless of that separation, compared to farms that are clustered together with low biosecurity standards, but still are considered different epidemiological units. So there is a need to review these circumstances to provide a better framework for response. In terms of depopulation as an option, there are four considerations that may be entertained. One would be to depopulate only the outbreaks and the buffer zone around those outbreaks. There may be a second option intended to depopulate backyard, but only those around commercial farms. The third option may be to depopulate all backyard in the island. Finally, a fourth option may be to depopulate backyard plus farms with low biosecurity. There is a need to discuss pros and cons of all these options, as there are consequences, positive and negative, associated with each of those. And in any case, there is a need to update the legislation because given the global situation with the disease, there is a high risk for new incursions. So any action associated with the population will have to be followed with an update on legislation. Otherwise, we may find ourselves after the population in a similar situation in which we are now. And also there are public health and animal welfare considerations that need to be considered. With that, thank you for your time, and thank you to those that were part of this visit and interview, including particularly the OIRSA and the Universidad Autónoma de Santo Domingo, along with practitioners, laboratories, the Dominican Republic government, number of producers, and the folks from USDA APHIS that are working there in the island. Thank you.